Today is day 15 of the Karen Read trial. I'm going to give you my daily recap. Today, the Commonwealth started with 2 clips. The first one was a Dateline clip, and the second one was an ID documentary clip. I forgot to take a screenshot of it, but I feel like it didn't air. It might have been just some footage that they had. But the ID one was her talking about if John had seen the text messages between her and Brian Higgins or not, and she wasn't sure. The next witness is John's niece, Kaylee. It's a juvenile witness, so there's no cameras in the courtroom, and then all of the reporters in there are asked no phones or computers or anything, so I just read the transcript from that. Basically, she said that her and Karen had a good relationship. Karen would help her straighten her hair sometimes before school. They would get their nails done together. Sometimes she would take her to her hair salon to get her hair cut. And she does remember sometimes when her and John would fight, she would be louder than John would be. And that's really the extent of it. It did go on for not that long. I would say maybe 20 to 30 minutes. The first witness is Zachary Clark. He is assigned to the Maynard State Police Crime Scene Division, but they cover a huge area which encompasses Canton. And he was directed to Karen Read's vehicle that was in the Sallyport. And Maureen Hartnett from the crime lab was also present when he was there. She was concerned about the rear exterior of the vehicle, looking for DNA and trace evidence. He was looking for fingerprints. He went to the scene at 34 Fairview for more evidence, and then he met with some of the reconstruction officers from Canton PD and the Mass State Police. He does mention that he met with the trooper that did the reconstruction last time. That was a laughingstock that I don't think they're calling this time. And I think his name's Trooper Paul. He was asked to document a few series of brake tests in the vehicle. We enter some new evidence, and it's photos of the interior of Karen Read's car. And then this vehicle here. Then we get into some of the cross-exam by Yannetti. This witness has been in I think it was called the CPAC unit for 2 years. David Yannetti gets a little snarky, and he says, so Tully is no longer your boss. There's objections and then a sidebar. He says that he saw Proctor when he arrived in the Sallyport on February 1st. He saw the vehicle then for the very first time, and Yannetti wants to confirm you have no idea how much access Proctor had to the vehicle before you saw it on February 1st, and he said correct. Zachary Clark was also present when Michael Proctor interviewed Colin Albert in July of 2023. That was the first time that Colin Albert was interviewed. Did you ask Proctor why he waited until July 2023 to interview him? He says no. He says that Proctor wrote the report for that, but he was just present for it. He also wants to know if Michael Proctor revealed to you that he and Kevin Albert had a friendly relationship and drank alcohol together in their cruiser. Bev strikes the record. They go have a morning sidebar, and then they have their morning recess. Sorry for the screenshot. But the next witness is Evan Brent. He works in the same unit, but at the Leominster Barracks. And he went to 34 Fairview and documented the excavation. Then he went to One Meadows with Proctor to take pictures of the Traverse and some pictures of the outside and the cameras on the outside of the house. Here's one of the pictures he took. This is the front of One Meadows, which is John O'Keefe's house. And pictures of the Traverse. So he was looking for damage here on the exterior of the Traverse where Karen Read supposedly struck his vehicle. And he says that there was no damage here. The Traverse was photographed on February 3rd. We're learning this on cross-exam by Yannetti. That's 5 days later, so you don't know who had access to the vehicle. And he says correct. Were you aware that 34 Fairview was a police officer's home? Brian Albert is the police officer, and he said he was not aware at the time. He did take notes of all the interactions, but Proctor ended up writing the reports. He also took pictures of the garage door just in case there was any damage there. The next witness is Brian Gallerani. Brian Gallerani, that sounds about right. He's the sergeant for the Needham Police Department. He testified last time, and I remember when he got on the stand last time, I was like, who is this guy? He did the buccal swab for Trooper Proctor and Buchanan, and Yannetti wants to know, were you ever asked to do a swab on Chief Berkowitz, Kevin Albert, Tully? He says no. I think what they do when there's an investigation like this, I'm just assuming, so somebody can chime in with comments, is that they test a lot of the evidence against some of the people that are handling it at the crime scene. and it all came back negative, like none of their DNA was present. Our next witness is Maureen Hartnett. She works at the Mass State Police Crime Laboratory. She responded to the Canton Police Department Sallyport on February 1st, and she was there to process the vehicle and get any of the DNA evidence and basically take swabs of everything and photographs that she could. She says that Michael Proctor was there. She did see the damage to the rear of the vehicle, and that's where she focused the majority of her investigation. She did do a swab for blood underneath the vehicle, and that came back negative. Here's another picture that she took of Karen Read's SUV, and another one here really close up of the whole taillight structure. She says that she found glass on the back bumper. I think she was pointing with the pointer around this area, but there was just like one large fragment of glass there. There are some scratches on the back of the vehicle here, and apparently there was a hair here on the back, or an apparent hair is what they called it, and Brennan says we'll get to that. So here are some closer images. There's a dent and some scratching here, and then this is a photo of the hair that was collected from the rear of the vehicle. Remember that this car had traveled from Dighton in a snowstorm, and it still had a hair on it. We know that the hair matches John O'Keefe from the first trial, but they'll go over that evidence on one of their other witnesses. But it doesn't surprise me that there was a hair from John O'Keefe on the car, especially because she parked her car in John O'Keefe's garage from time to time, but I'm not sure if that makes a big deal. We have her whole taillight was removed. Somebody from the Canton Police Department helped take that out for her. She explains her process and what she tested on. And then we get into some of John O'Keefe's evidence. Oops, I forgot to show you. She held up the taillight. It was a little confusing because in the taillight box, there was also two smaller bags. And Brennan was trying to hint like these are brought to other proceedings and maybe it got packaged up together, but he doesn't want to say that at the last trial. Maybe this was packaged up accidentally together. So now we're shown pictures of John O'Keefe's hoodie. It was cut for the testing here and to remove off of his body, but there are some marks here. I forgot to take a screenshot, but they do show close-ups of those. You can see the marks here that she's identifying for her research. She did take swabs off of the areas that you can see. And then this was his undershirt that he was wearing, which is just so hard for me to understand how somebody that's hit by a car and then falls straight down, how they get so much blood like this, and especially like on the pants. But that's not up to me. Alessi does the cross-exam. He says, you reviewed the car as a whole. She says, yes. You made no conclusions on where the dent came or the taillight. And she says, correct. The dent and the taillight could have existed before January 29th, 2022. And she says that's correct. She was told about the wounds on John O'Keefe's right arm. She was never shown a photograph. She's seen the photograph since then. And they show it again. He asked about the area on the top of the lift gate. And the Commonwealth had asked the jurors to take a look at that when they went to the view at the house. I'll show you guys that. So this is the area that the Commonwealth had pointed out for the jurors to take extra look at when they went to the view at 34 Fairview and Karen Read's vehicle was there. So Alessi wants to know, did you do any testing up here? And she says no. She did test the undercarriage area. She didn't see visually any blood, but she just kind of like randomly swiped areas down there and it was all negative. We get into the questioning about the Solo cups. She explains her process, what she would do for the red Solo cups. She did take the sample. She said that she's never taken a sample from red Solo cups before. After she collected the sample to test, she left the cups and handed them back to whoever had handed them to her. She doesn't believe that it was Michael Proctor though. And then Alessi wants to know if the person who helped to remove the taillight was wearing gloves, and she says, I believe they were because I just saw the video of it, and in the video they were wearing gloves. And she did not do any swabs inside of the taillight. We're shown some of this video where you can see inside the Sallyport, the snow is actually falling and melting off of the vehicle. And when it falls, it hits the crime scene tape and then it hits the ground. The last thing that Alessi brings up is the hair. It's this one hair here, but it's two pictures of the hair and he has them side by side for you to compare. He says do these look like different hairs? Does it look like the hair has moved? And she doesn't really